Hey, lifers, welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. I am your host, Eric Aroca. Have you ever noticed that Aroca sounds weird?
Yeah.
Should I say it in Spanish? I am your host, Eric Aroca. No, that sounds weird. Eric Aroca. That sounds more Italian. No, let's go with that. Eric Aroca. All right. Anyway, little tangent. So happy to be here. I woke up this morning feeling good, Sophie. You just barely woke up, and it's like 11:30. 11:12. I was close. The life of a 18-year-old, y'all. It's pretty grand. All right. Sophie, good to see you this morning. Excellent, or good afternoon almost. But Sophie, what are you drinking? And Alani. She drinks Alani. We are not sponsored by Alani, but wouldn't mind it if we were. These are really good, by the way. They're almost like crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, I've got the Old Faithful from Fizz just down the road. I got the Coke Zero with lime wedge. Light ice, and let me just tell you, that is just heavenly. Did I ever tell you guys? Did I ever tell you, Sophie? And I'll share this with you guys as well. That when you have an addiction to something, the first thing, like drinks, I'll just admit, I'm addicted to soda. Okay, I love Coke Zero. I just love it. I'll just say I'm addicted to it. I choose to drink it every chance I get, okay? But the first drink in the morning is the best one. And somebody told me once, a friend of mine who smokes cigarettes, he also said that his first cigarette in the morning was the best one. After that, it's just pure habit. So that's how I feel like with my Coke Zero. The first one in the morning, you just savor it. Like that fizz just feels so good going down, you know? And then after that, it's just habit. You're just drinking the crap just to drink it. But anyway. All right, so we get our drinks out of the way. Did want to let you guys know that we have been busy recording episodes with guests. And super excited for our next guest next week, who happens to be a fire captain. So a fireman, a real life hero, is going to be on the show next week. So stay tuned for that. Captain Knight shares some really great insights about living the life and using that perseverance to achieve what you want in life. So really excited. And we have some really awesome ones to record coming up very, very soon as well. So I'm excited for it. All right. In 2 weeks, we are doing something a little different. So we are going to be releasing an episode that is going to be where I'm going to have to be very vulnerable, because I'm going to share with you guys my experience, or I guess my story, of what I call brain trauma that I suffered a few years ago. It's been 7 years. Why are you laughing about my brain trauma? Why is it funny? Apparently, you guys, my brain trauma is hilarious because Sophie is over here busting a gut. So anyway, we'll be talking a little bit about that. Sharing with you my experience as I went through it, as I kind of see it or saw it, and like I said, I don't have my own personal memory of that week, so a lot of what you're gonna hear is just stories that I've heard from family and friends, and in the videos, I will actually be sharing the videos with you guys, and that's gonna be a very vulnerable moment for me. So. No judgments, just laughter. Feel free to laugh because some of it is pretty hilarious. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks, so you can look forward to that. Because the following episode is, I believe, no, I spoke too soon. Never mind. But we do have a great guest coming on in September who talks about being a brain tumor survivor. And mine wasn't anything that serious, you guys, but I guess it was serious to me, right? Like in Gravity, it wasn't that as serious as my dear friend. But anyway, I'm going to share that with you guys. And like I said, it'll be a very vulnerable moment for me. Feel free to laugh. I think it's hilarious. And we can just have a good time and not take life too serious. So, all right. Today, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about work-life balance. Because let's be honest, work-life balance is a lie. It's a myth. It's chasing something that's unattainable. And it's really interesting. I was busy writing a long post for LinkedIn. So if you want to see what I wrote a little piece on work-life balance on LinkedIn. So feel free to go to my account, Eric Aroca. You can also find it on Facebook under Eric Aroca, and you can also find it under Eric Aroca on Instagram. So long form. But here I talk a little bit as I was writing this out, typing this out last night. I felt really good about it, and it was kind of late last night. It was almost midnight by the time I kind of had it polished the way I wanted it. And so I set everything to launch and to go out on all the social media accounts late last night so that they would launch early this morning. And as I pulled up my phone this morning, the very first story that I saw was, I don't even know who it was, but it was a woman talking about work-life balance and how important it is for us to achieve work-life balance. And I was just like, wow, that's perfect. That is like uncanny, like timing, you know what I mean? So let's dive in a little bit. Like I said in my opener, I think that work-life balance is a lie. It is something that's unattainable. I think the more you strive for work-life balance, I think the more times you're going to feel like you're failing either in your work setting or in your life aspect of it, your personal life, your family life. Something has to give. So back in, I would say 2010 is when I first heard about work-life balance really being like something that was being talked about quite a bit. Employers were using it, and I know that employers use it today to talk about job postings that they have, and they talk about their organization, how they're trying to help you achieve work-life balance and all those things. And I just think, man, can we just be honest? It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Look, in my career, when I first started out in my career, I was working full-time. And then I was going to school. So I first started going to a traditional college, and I was working graveyards. And then I was going to school in the morning. So I got off work around 7 o'clock, and I think my first class was around 8:30. I don't recommend that to anybody. That is not smart. And I think I probably fell asleep a few times during class, to be honest. But that's what I was doing. I was newly married. I didn't have kids. So really my whole focus was trying to get kind of a career off the ground, trying to earn money to buy a house. I was 21 years old when I got married. Married my high school sweetheart, and really focused on just trying to find a job where I could make a little bit of money when we first got married, I joke around a lot that my job paid for movie night and her job paid for the bills, right? So it was kind of a joke. I was making like $7 or $8 an hour. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But nevertheless, I was, doing everything that I could to kind of get things going, and eventually I stayed with the same company, but kind of moved to different departments and to different job responsibilities and jobs. And so then I started making a little bit more money. I started making, $10 an hour to up to $15 an hour. And, back in the late 80s, I guess it would be early 90s, that was not too bad, as a starting point. But I was going to school, and I was pretty busy. That took up all of my time. So how was I supposed to have work-life balance when I'm working full-time, I'm working graveyards, then I go to school, then I go home and I crash, and I try to get some sleep, I wake up and try to get my homework done, or whatever assignments I had going on for school, and then basically rinse and repeat 5 days a week. How was I supposed to have work-life balance? What does work-life balance look like? See, we say work-life balance because it sounds great on paper. I mean, I will tell you, when I dream of work-life balance, I just think of this like perfectly harmonious just thing where you go to work, you leave work at work, you go home, you never think about work again. You don't have to do anything work-wise until the next day when you actually clock in or you show up at your office. And then when you're with your family, it's just family time, and life is great and good and everything is harmonious. That doesn't exist. Because like I said, I was going to school full-time. I was working full-time. I didn't have time for work-life balance. If I was chasing life, if I was chasing a quality of life, I couldn't do that because then it would be at the expense of my work side or school. And if I focused on school and work, well, then life kind of, gets in the way or suffers. So that's why I say it's unattainable. And it's not that you don't care about either one. You care about both. But it's finding that perfect balance that I just feel like you're always going to feel like you're failing. You're going to feel like you're failing one of them all the time. So lessons learned along the way. Eventually, I got into sales, and I was still going to school, believe it or not. So, but I got into sales. I was on the road quite a bit. Had kids that were involved in sports. I've had kids that have been involved in singing lessons, dance. My son was heavily involved in sports. What else? Dance, sports, singing. What? Soccer. Yeah, that's sports. But anyway, so my kids were busy doing all of those activities. I'm on the road probably 75% of the time. I kid you not, I was on the road. I would say probably 80% of the time. That was my dog. So not sure what his deal is. So I was on the road all the time, and I was building a career. Now, I couldn't always be home for every little family thing or life event that was going on. I can't tell you how many times my wife packed up the kids and went to dinner, for example, went to like Sunday night dinner to my parents' house or her parents' house without me. And they would always ask, well, where's Eric at? Where's Eric? And she'd be like, well, he's home. He's home studying because I was going to school. I mean, I'm on the road 80% of the time, going to college at the same time, trying to get my bachelor's degree and then my master's degree. You see what I mean? So something always has to give. So there is never that perfect balance. So like I said, many, many times, I can't tell you the amount of times that my wife had to take the kids and go do something with them by herself, without me being there to support her and help her along the way. But work and building a career and getting through school was something that I placed a high value on, and so that was the priority at that time. Now, I will say that even though I missed a lot of events, I missed a lot of, I don't want to say small things, but just events in general, I did make it to the events that I prioritized or that I placed a great deal of value on. For example, my kids' high school graduations, I was at every single graduation. If they had a big recital, I was there at most of those recitals. The important recitals, I was there. One of my daughters was a competitive swimmer. I can't tell you the amount of time I spent on a Saturday going to a swim meet. And if you guys don't understand what that means, this is what it means. For example, your kid may swim in the middle of the day at the swim meet. You have to be there at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Your kid may not swim till 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And they have one meet, and if they don't qualify to race in the final heat, you're done. And so it was maybe a minute in length that you got to be there to see your kid swim, but you had to be there all day. That's tough. That's worse than baseball games. Almost not even as bad as dance recitals. Because let me just tell you, don't get me started on dance recitals. But anyway, so those are hard. But so I had to prioritize which of those events I was going to attend. So I had prioritized that I would attend the more important events in my kids' lives. And I made it to those. Let me share, on one particular occasion, my daughter Sophie was dancing, and it was her big, I think it was like one of her first big ballets. Which one was it? Do you remember?
Alice in Wonderland, I think.
Which one?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. In Wonderland or and Wonderland?
In.
Alice in Wonderland. I got to get that right. I still don't know what that's about. I have no idea. But anyway, it was her. I believe this was her first kind of like really big ballet performance, right? This isn't a recital, right? This is a performance, like a big theater type of an event. So it's a big deal. Were you on point?
No.
Okay, not on point yet. Not on point shoes yet. But nevertheless, it was a big event. I was on the road that week. And I was in Korea? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, good memory. I was just thinking I was on the road. I couldn't even remember where. So I was in South Korea facilitating a workshop at Samsung Biologics. Now it's all coming back to me. So I was at Samsung Biologics facilitating a workshop. And I knew that I had this event, right? I had my ticket. I had everything. I had to get there. Well, getting back was a feat. I missed a connecting flight. Not due to me missing it, like I was late or anything. Just things happened, and I don't even remember what the problem was. But I ended up not being able to get on a connecting flight in Europe. I believe in Paris, because I'm pretty sure I flew from Korea to Paris, France, and from Paris to New York, to Salt Lake City. That's what it was. Pretty sure that's what it was. And I believe it was in Paris where things kind of went haywire, and I couldn't get on the right flight. So I was really looking at the time thinking, you know what? I promised her I was going to be there. Do you remember this? I promised her I was going to be at her recital. This was a big deal, right? So, but I'm looking at my clock, I'm looking at my watch, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to make it. Like, there is no way I am going to make it. Like, there's just no way. There's nothing I can do. I'm not driving the plane, right? I mean, if I was, hey, there's a chance I'm making it there. So we get to something really interesting that happened is along the way, we were told from Paris to New York, we were told that we had a tailwind. That means that the wind was at our back, so it was pushing the airplane forward. So you actually make up better time. Isn't that weird? Mm-hmm. And from New York to Salt Lake City, we also had a tailwind, which is interesting because usually they don't tell you that we have a tailwind. They always tell you when you have a headwind, right? So I don't know. I found that kind of interesting. So we're making pretty good time. I'm making pretty good time. I land in Salt Lake City, and from Salt Lake City, I have at least an hour drive home. If I'm driving super fast, probably 45 minutes to get to where we lived. So we land, I get my car, I start driving, and I'm feeling pretty enthusiastic because I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm gonna be late, but I'm gonna be there. Like, I'm gonna be late, but I'm gonna be there. I'm not gonna miss it. At least I'm hoping that I'm not going to miss it, because it just really depends on like what act you are in Alice in Wonderland, you know, where she's performing. And I didn't know that. So, but I'm thinking, okay, I'll be late, but I'll be there. Promise made. Well, I get there, and I was driving pretty fast on I-15. And not only did I make it, but I made it on time. Flowers in hand and everything. And so I made it, and I was able to enjoy Alice in Wonderland, which I still am not really sure what it's about. But I enjoyed it, and I got to see, you know, Sophie perform and the importance of that. And as I think about that experience, I think of the importance of prioritizing the things that matter and not chasing work-life balance, but rather prioritizing values, living in the present, living with intentionality. And I think if we do that, intentionality, live in the present, I believe like that's leadership. And it just allows us the freedom to prioritize the things that are the most important, the things that really matter to us. Because let's be honest, there are going to be times where your work is going to have a greater priority than what's going on at home. Maybe save it, you know, besides something like a funeral or a wedding or like a graduation. There are going to be times when your work demands supersede that of anything that's going on in your personal life. But by the same token, you're going to have times where your personal life, its demands are going to supersede anything that's going on in your professional life or in your work life. And so forget trying to balance it all out. Instead, just prioritize what matters most. Base your priorities on values. So if you have a core value of work and putting work first and doing a great job and completing your tasks and building your career, then you're going to place a higher priority on those things than others. And then vice versa. maybe your core value is family and that. So I've seen it both ways. I have friends that have placed a greater value and a greater priority on building their career and then not only building their career but sustaining their career and keeping that going to a high level over family. And that's fine because that's their core value. I can't judge whether that's good or bad, but I would say that if you're always choosing your career over your family in every instance, that's where it becomes an unhealthy endeavor. So prioritize those events that you absolutely will show up for your work, and then prioritize those events or things that you absolutely will show up for in your family. Now that may be skewed a little bit. It may be more work focused or family focused, but there's never going to be this. There is never, that balance is never going to exist. It's always going to be skewed one way or the other. That's why I say you're chasing a myth. You're chasing something that's unattainable. I've seen friends that have chosen family over work, and nothing wrong with that. But again, it's unhealthy if you're always choosing family over work. So you got to prioritize what events are most important for work, what events or things are most important for family. Make that priority, stick to your values, and that way you can live a very anchored life. Not a well-balanced life, but a well-anchored life, because you're anchored in your values. You're anchored in living in the present. You're anchored to what matters most. Okay? I would love to hear what you guys think about work-life balance, what your experience has been in trying to achieve work-life balance, and tell me if you think it's a bunch of crap or not, because I sure think it is. Okay, so it's great to talk about, but let's talk a little bit about some strategies. So what does that look like? What are some real life practical strategies that we can use to help us in trying to achieve that that prioritized way of living? Okay. All right. So how about this? Define your big rocks. So many years ago, excuse me, throat's dry. Let me quench it with a little Coke Zero. All right, many years ago, Stephen R. Covey wrote he's a famous author, famous public speaker, very, very good. But he had this demonstration. There were no demons around, trust me. He had this demonstration where he had a bowl and a bunch of big rocks and then a bunch of pebbles, and he told an audience participant to move the rocks from one basket or one bin to another, but they had to put all the big rocks and all the pebbles in and make it work. So the contestant proceeded by putting all the pebbles or sand, it was just pebbles, all the pebbles in first. Then she tried to finagle the rocks, into the bucket and try to get all the rocks in there, the bigger rocks in there, and it just didn't fit. It didn't work. So he starts telling her, well, what do these rocks represent? These rocks represent family. They represent work. They represent civic responsibilities, maybe religious responsibilities, the carpool, whatever it is, those big things in your life that take up a lot of our time. And then the rocks, the pebbles represent kind of all the fillers, all the other little things that happen, that go on in our life. So he told her, well, what about if we did a paradigm shift and we flipped it? What if we put all the big rocks in first, right? In whatever priority you want. So I think this person put rocks in, her big rock was, I think, like work, and then she grabbed family, and then like kids, or I think one of them was marriage. Anyway, so she prioritized which big rocks she was going to put in the bin first. And then she took the pebbles and dumped it on top, or poured it over the big rocks in the other basket. And she was able to have all of the pebbles fit with the big rocks. But when she did it the other way around, it didn't work. So it's a good lesson for us to define what our big rocks are. So our big rocks are those things that take priority. So for example, it could be your marriage. It could be your job. It could be your health. There are going to be times, 7 years ago, a big priority in my life was my health. And not just 7 years ago, but I would say it's become a pretty big rock over the last 7 years. I'm carnivore because of what I experienced. And the reason why I eat carnivore is because that is a big rock currently for me. Any work project, spending time with kids. So you get to define, I don't. And this is the beautiful part about it, is that you get to define what your big rocks are. And then have all the other little filler rocks go around it when you have time. Right? That's how you define that. Again, you're prioritizing the things that matter most. Prioritizing the things that matter most. Okay. The second thing that you can try is time blocking. Time blocking works great, even in my job. Different jobs that I've had, where I just time block and I just say, hey, from 8 to 9 or 7 to 8, I'm answering emails. And so I don't spend all day trying to answer emails, right? I would time block first thing in the morning, maybe 10 minutes before lunch, and then maybe 15 minutes or something like that before I went home. I would look at my emails again and take care of anything that was urgent, any emails that are not urgent or that don't need my immediate attention could wait till the next day. So use time blocking. We use it all the time. So for you, it may look like this, right? 7 to 8 a.m., maybe you go to the gym. Now, to be honest, unless you're work from home, you're not going to the gym at 7 to 8 a.m. You're probably doing 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, right? Let's be honest. 8:30 to 5, you're going to work. 5:30 or 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, you might have dinner plus family, whatever, right? 7 to 9, you might be using that time to recharge. You might have to prioritize time for bedtime. If you have young kids, that's one thing that I did, is I prioritized time with my kids when I was home. So when I was home, I used this time blocking method to spend time with them, like not quantity of time, but more quality of time. So for example, one of the things that I did is I would put them to bed and I would make up stories. So my wife would be like, hey, Eric, why don't you go in there? My wife doesn't really sound like that, does she? Does she sound like that? No, she's going to kill me when she hears this. But she would say, hey, Eric, why don't you go and read them a bedtime story? And I'd be like, those books suck. I'm not reading them, those crappy books. So no, I'm not going to read them a bedtime story. But what I will do is go in there and make up stories that I could tell them. And so I made up these stories about, what was it? Dottie. Who was it? What were the names? Dottie? Samantha.
And then I think it was Tiffany.
Tiffany. Chloe, Samantha, and Tiffany. Did I say Chloe? Tiffany.
Dottie.
Okay, Dottie, Tiffany,
Samantha.
and Samantha.
And then I was Cupcake.
And Sophie was Cupcake, and my son Alec was Mitchell. Okay, so, which his was cheating because that was just his middle name. But I would make up these stories about the adventures of these characters, of these kids. And a lot of it was based on reality, like things that we had done as a family. But I would just, make them more grand and funny and whatever. And my kids absolutely loved that. But that was our time. That was time that I could prioritize with them when I was home. So did that happen every night? Absolutely not. But it happened whenever I was home because I could use that time blocking to make sure that time was designated for story time. So that's just one example, right? I would do the same thing for my wife. If I was home every Friday night, we went on a date. Again, it's not work-life balance. It's just making priorities and prioritizing on things that matter most. But time blocking is a great tool that you can use to help you achieve that opportunity to and I forget what I was going to say. To schedule your time, to make sure that you are able to make the most out of what time you have. All right. The other thing is say no to protect your yes. Every yes is a no to something else. So you got to learn to say, I'm not available, but thank you for thinking of me. Or that's not a priority for me right now. You're not being selfish. You're being selective. Now, guys, this is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. I had a difficult time early in my career of saying no. Saying no to my boss, saying no to my manager, saying no to colleagues. I had a difficult time saying no, and that ate up time when I was at home. So again, that priority starts to blur, right? If you don't learn to say no. You don't say no to everything. You have to be very selective. Okay? So, practice saying no. It's a time saver. It frees up more opportunities for you to prioritize the things that matter most. Okay. Another thing is limit the always on culture. So turn off work notifications after hours. Delete work apps from your personal phone if you can. If you can't, it's okay. Just ignore them. That's what I do. I don't turn them off. I just ignore them. Create a ritual to end your workday. Close your laptop. Go for a walk. Change your clothes when you get home so you're no longer in your work clothes. Your brain needs boundaries. And your brain needs to rest. So, this is something that my wife and I have prioritized. So, when we go on a date, yes, we absolutely have our phones with us. And no, we are never on our phones just to be on our phones. She is never on her phone just so that she can be on her phone and ignore me. I'm never ignoring her, even if I'm on my phone, because if I'm on my phone, I'm probably showing her something that I learned on TikTok, or I saw a funny Instagram or something like that, or I'm just showing her something, a picture or whatever. And she's doing the same for me. So we're on either my phone or her phone together. So there is still that together time. It's not, hey, I'm totally ignoring you and I haven't said 2 words to you while we've been at dinner. So have those boundaries. And I would make those boundaries very clear to people that are around you. There have been times where I've had to prioritize work over family, like I've already mentioned 30 times, but after work hours, just because of the nature of my jobs in the past. And even today, there will be times where I'll say to my wife, hey, I have to take a call, or I have to jump on this Zoom call, and it's 7 o'clock in the evening, or it's 9 o'clock in the evening, and I'll say, hey, I've got to take care of this. Or at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, I'll say, hey, I have to write a chapter for my book, or I have to get this task done for work. Now, I will also say that I've had to be at work to say, hey, don't call me after 5 o'clock because I will not pick up the call. Because once work is over, work is over. So you've got me until 5 o'clock. Unless you want to pay me extra, I'm done at 5 o'clock. When I'm on vacation, I don't answer email. I just don't. I do the little forwarding thing on my email where it just says, hey, if you've reached me, I am out of town, I am out of the office, I am on vacation. If your issue needs my immediate attention, please contact one of my colleagues. And they've already been forewarned that I'm on vacation, so anything that's urgent is coming to them. That's how you handle that, right? When you are on vacation, you should be on vacation. You should not be working. Because if you are, you're not prioritizing your family. Why did you go on vacation if all you're going to do on vacation is answer texts, answer emails, answer phone calls, and work? Stay home. Save the money and stay home and go to the office. Okay? So, you do not always have to be on. There are times when you can turn it off, either in your life, family, or in your work. All right, create a weekly check-in. So this is something that my wife and I used to do on a regular basis, and I really want to get back to this because I thought it was really good when we used to do it. So each Sunday night or Monday morning, we always did Sunday night, we talk about what matters most this week. So we would actually go through and just say our schedules and just be like, this is everything that we have going on, from Monday morning to Saturday night. This is everything that we have to do. And then prioritize what are the things that matter most. Does she have something on her schedule that I need to prioritize? Is there something on my schedule that she needs to prioritize? And so that way you can set those boundaries and you can prioritize the things that matter most. It allows you the freedom to let go of things. And it also gives you the opportunity to ask, who needs my best energy? Who needs my best self in that moment for that event? So it doesn't take a long time. This is not an activity that takes an hour. Literally can take 10 to 15 minutes. It would always take a little bit longer for us because we would go on tangents and talk about things and, dissect things to death. That's probably why we stopped doing it. But I think that's something, a good habit to get back into. So I'm going to talk to Selena tonight and see if we can do that. We used to do that all the time. I found it really, really helpful. All right. And then celebrate presence over perfection. You won't get it all right all the time, and that's okay. So I want you to focus on being fully present where you are, rather than trying to be everywhere and everything at once. Okay? So, 1 meaningful dinner, 5 distracted ones, 1 focused work sprint, multitasking all day. So think about what that looks like for you in your life. Live in the moment. If you are at the movies, be at the movies. If you are at work, be at work. Live in the moment. Live in the presence at work. I would always tell my wife, listen, if you want to call me during the day, do not call me. Text me. I said, because I could be in a meeting and I can text you back. Or I can just say, I'm in a meeting and I'll call you later. Right? Again, you're prioritizing things. Right? So, live in the moment. If you're at dinner with your spouse, if you're at dinner with your kids, if you're at a family activity, man, do not be that person that you're supposed to be spending time with your family, but instead you're off to the side on your freaking phone trying to take care of something that can wait. Trust me, it'll hold. It can wait. Okay? But the more you chase work-life balance, the more you're going to feel like a failure, the more that you're going to have unbalance and not be able to prioritize the things that matter most. There are plenty of people who have very important jobs. Listen, I think what I do is important, but it's not life or death. Okay? And there are lots of professions where you really have to prioritize work quite a bit. And if you don't prioritize, and I believe that a high divorce rate in the medical field, in emergency services, like being a police officer, fireman, even being a lawyer, depending on what type of law you practice, there's a reason why divorce rates are so high. It's because they don't prioritize. They're chasing work-life balance. You can chase it all you want, but you're never going to attain it. You're never going to reach it. So instead, like I've been saying this whole 45 minutes, choose and prioritize the things that matter most. Anchor yourself to living a principled life. Anchor yourself to the values, to your core values. And if you anchor yourself to your core values, it's going to help you to prioritize the things that matter most. And when you prioritize the things that matter most, that's going to allow you to live the life you've always imagined. Let me know what you think about work-life balance in the comments. Love to hear your comments about this topic. And hope you enjoyed the episode. Listen, if you enjoy the shorts that are out there, the reels, hey, give us a follow. And certainly give us a follow here on the channel, here on YouTube. Subscribe, and love to hear from all of you, and really appreciate all of those of you who are supporting the channel in one way or another. So thank you so much, and remember, live the life.